Hey everyone, I think this year is a crazy one in terms of all the news of aliens. We had that US court hearing with David Grush talk about the UFO secrets that the government was keeping, and that one by itself was already a huge event that was getting a lot of attention. And now this week we have a similar event, except it's kind of disappointing because it's nowhere near on the same level as the American one. In fact, it feels more like a joke with the evidence they provide to prove aliens are real, and you're going to see what I mean. Recently, the Mexican Congress had a live stream to let a very popular journalist present his evidence they collected over time to prove the existence of aliens. This wasn't the whole entire country of Mexico wanting to prove that aliens were real, but rather was more meant to here are his opinions and statements he had to say, because like I said, he was very popular in that country. So the live stream started very formal, with him bringing in two boxes that looked like coffins, except they were way too short for any normal human being. But then he leads to opening them up, and you can see the mummified corpses of aliens. And I'm going to be honest, when I first watched the live stream, it was very hard to see what was going on because of the angle of the camera, but even at that point, I was laughing how dumb it looked from what I could see. Which only made it funnier when they cut to an overhead shot of the aliens, and it looked like the most bugged out freaky paper mache model that some remote villager thinks an alien looks like. Outside of the body, where you can see the extremely thin torso and limbs, which look very humanoid. And I think it's very insulting that the only evidence he had to prove that aliens were real are these dolls that basically look like short people, which is what aliens normally look like when they're portrayed in films and games, having the bodies of humans but having one characteristic that makes them stand out as aliens, like the skin or the head. So I definitely believe the journalist wanted to get as much backup as possible, so the best way to get people to believe him is by making an alien that looks similar to what other people saw in movies. As I also mentioned now, this journalist is a huge UFO enthusiast. So personally, that's already a red flag, because it just feels he's trying to force the public into believing that aliens are real. He probably also hates the common perception people have of UFO believers like him, so he wants to take this opportunity to prove what he believes in is real. It's kind of like flat earthers, where they take every possible turn to prove they're right, while also trying to force their ideas into others so they could convert them into one of them. And that's the exact same scenario with this guy, and I hate the fact that he was even given a chance to live stream it to everyone. Personally, if I ever found the remains of aliens, I wouldn't expect it to look like a human or an animal on Earth, because the coincidence of them looking like us or anything we recognize is just too great. But now what's about the funniest part of this whole story? That just looks so weird with the elongated face and the really stiff expression it has. It just looks so incredibly dumb that I can't believe it's anything else apart from a creation of a moron that wants people to believe in aliens like him. And I love the fact this is the best piece of evidence he has to prove that they're real. If I was dumb enough to go on a Congress live stream, I would definitely take the time to get the most realistic looking thing possible, no matter how much it costed. Because if this was your first chance to make an impression on the belief of aliens, you need to look as honest as possible, with something that looks real, but also not handmade. There are talented people who can make wax figures that look identical to the person or thing they're based off. And even though wax isn't the best material to use to make a dry looking corpse, I'm just trying to prove a way that he could make it more realistic and now make it clear that he just made it by hand. It also turned out that one of the aliens had 2 eggs inside their torso, which I believe he just added to make it seem like they have some kind of reproduction system to prove that they're real. But of course, that doesn't mean much when everything else about it just doesn't make sense, and it just makes it more confusing rather than more realistic. If he really did find these remains naturally, he would normally just dissect them to see what's inside them. But the fact that he didn't, it's clear he just planted it there to make it seem like they used to be alive in the past. I also find it weird that he tried to make it seem humanoid with the body and limbs, but then broke that logic with eggs being inside their torso. Overall, the whole live stream just seemed like a joke with how dumb the evidence looked. And I'm sure all the government officials that wanted to hear him out now regret it, with everyone on the internet laughing at them for trying to make it seem real. But now comes the second interesting part of the story, because this journalist actually found the remains back in 2017, and scientists examined them to see if they were real. And without surprise, they turned out to be fake. But not just that, they were discovered to be the remains of a human child that just had the bones rearranged to make the proportions seem more alien. And I think the fact alone is disgusting, for him to disgrace a corpse to turn into this freaky thing that he calls an alien, and then take it to scientists and tell them that it's real. There was a video uploaded in 2021 that explained the analysis behind it, and it's the most feeble dreamish analysis you would ever imagine, with them explaining how the bones were rearranged. The human skeleton is incredibly complex, so if you try to turn to something else, it would be impossible. But that still didn't stop this guy. From just one x-ray, it was shown the alien skeleton was made from different bones of animals and humans, with the arms in particular being made from femurs.
Ufologists go as far as calling them humanoid reptiles. So what do we see? Same stuff. A hodgepodge of human and animal bones. Here's a mummy named Josephine. A real beauty. Instead of humeri, she sports femurs, or thigh bones.
I really can't get over the fact like this journalist really wanted like scientists to like come and vouch for him. But even a short analysis of this just proved that it was handmade, and it's not even that good. I feel like any amateur nurse or like scientist could like look at one x-ray and like point out the different bones that came from different places to like make this huge fucking mess. You would think that if they had the freedom to like make the corpse themselves, they would do a good job at it. But later in the video, the guy explains like one of the bones in the legs was facing the wrong way, and there were no hip joints. So if it was ever living, he would have never walked.
Her legs are even more baffling. One of the thigh bones is actually a femur, only facing the wrong way around, while the other one is a tibia. And they are completely mismatched. With the hip bone, there's no joint there at all. The poor humanoid wouldn't have made a single step. Some of the bones are simply chopped off.
I think there was the part like I was saying about like how they ended up on Earth, if they were, you know, real. Because they would actually be like advanced enough to like travel from space and like end up on this planet. They couldn't even take a step in the first place. I think even a kid could make like a better skeleton than this guy. Because even a kid like understanding the basic principles of a skeleton that this alien is missing. You would think that being able to choose like both like animal and human bones to make it easier, but for this guy it was just hard. This analysis video is quite long, and there was a lot of effort put behind it, so I'll put the link in the description below if you want to see it. But the last and best part I'll talk about is the skull, that turned out to be the skull of a llama that was like cut in half, and that back part was like turned out to be the face. This was another part that was horrible, because the guy explains like how in Peru, where like remains were found, there were burials made just for llamas, and they were actually seen as like sacrificial like animals to like the Inca Empire. But even today they're still well loved and like seen as an icon. But then you have this guy just traveling to that country and taking a skull from one of those animals to like put in his like creation.
And look at this alien head. French paleontologist Julien Benoit thinks that those who crafted the small humanoid mummies used skulls of some small mammals for their heads, such as a llama or alpaca. Comparison shows that the reptiloid's cranial cavity fits perfectly the cranial cavity of a llama. The location of the olfactory bulbs, the inner ear, the brain hemispheres, and the cerebellum precisely matches those in a llama skull. The whole facial part of the skull was broken off, leaving only the brain case. The skull was then rotated so its back part faces forward. The reptiloid's face is actually the back of the poor llama's head. Where could the mummy forgers have gotten a llama skull? Historian Yuri Bereskin has told me that pre-Columbian peoples of Peru often made llama burials. Here's a fresh report about finding buried llama mummies in Peru. Paleontologist Alexei Bondarev has examined a photograph depicting the base of the skull of one of the mummies, from which the skin had been lifted. See this unusual square foramen magnum, the alleged place of the junction of the brain and the spinal cord. You can clearly see how the so-called skin goes inside the square hole with no tearing. It's as if a human neck went right inside the hole in the back of their skull. You can make a doll like this, but it's simply impossible to find in a real mummy of any creature.
Which really highlights this guy's lack of caring, because even after he made like this creation of bones, it just felt like he was wasting everyone's time by like, live streaming it and saying that it was real. At the end of the day, like most people who do this kind of alien stuff, he just made it for attention. I found it really annoying that he was even given like an opportunity to like present his fake evidence. The most attention he should have gotten is from like a video he uploaded himself, like explaining like his belief and opinions, because then not many people like pay attention to him. Another thing that annoys me is that there's a very like small chance that some people actually like believe what he said, and now has more trust in him, which is kind of dangerous, because he clearly like fakes like evidence to like back up his claims, and if he had a bigger following, he would become like way more popular. I think he's already pretty big in Mexico as like a TV personality, but I could definitely see him having like a bigger fan base in like across South America and getting more people to like believe this kind of dumb shit. Compared to the US court hearing with David Grush, they seemed like a joke like how few evidence they had. And the only evidence he had with him was his like paper mache doll that looked like it was made by a kid. But I think the analysis back in 2021 made it more dumber and kind of depressing when you realize that he took like a few people's bones to make it. If I was dumb enough to like make this abomination, I would show it to no one, much less like scientists like government officials. I feel like if any other celebrity tried this, they would get immediately laughed at because of how dumb it is in general. But again, this journalist is pretty popular in Mexico, so I feel like the only reason why Congress like let him live stream it is because they wanted to hear him out and kind of like believed him. Except maybe now, I'm sure all the people saw like how dumb the aliens look and realized like he's full of shit. But on the other hand, there might be like a small percentage of people who saw it and like kind of believe him now. But right now, I pray to God that he isn't allowed to like live stream this kind of stuff anymore, or that he isn't given a platform to like prove that aliens are real with the evidence he has. But honestly, this might be like the peak of his popularity, because I've never really like heard of him before apart from this, so over time, he might just like slowly fade off attention. But that's all I have to say. So hopefully there's a video and I'll see you next time. Bye.